continues, and even as we are having our pictures live from Addis Ababa, just looking at what has happened, the most current development is the handing over of power to the incoming new chairperson of the AU. And of course, we have a new AUC chairperson, João Manuel Lourenço, who is now the chair of the African Union and is the president of Angola. He's just given his acceptance speech and has also then just touched on a number of things in his vision, looking at the solution to peace and security, promoting development and progress of the continent. As the chairperson of the AU now, Lourenço is working on building infrastructure in the continent, building channels of dialogue with partners. He's also spoken on the address of conflict, or rather addressing conflicts and illegal immigrations, and economic justice and financial inclusion. Just but a bit of what the now new president, or rather chairperson of the AU, that is João Manuel Lourenço, has given as part of his acceptance speech. So that is a very important development to capture today, even as we await the key election or voting process to begin at 2 p.m. in as far as the AUC chair is concerned. That is where we're seeing 3 candidates, including Kenya's Raila Odinga, facing off with Djibouti and Madagascar candidates. But in that particular spirit, it's a very interesting moment of truth, if you put it that way, and I have very key guests who joined me way earlier and have been following the sessions at Addis Ababa. Alenga Torestad, who is a policy and governance analyst. You have seen what has happened. The AU chairperson position has gone to Angola. Somebody will interrogate and ask the relationship between Kenya and Angola. So far, we got the support of Angola, and as far as we are concerned, but then there has to be some work relationship with the AUC chairperson and the AU chairperson. How has the history been for Kenya and Angola thus far?
I think bilaterally, Kenya has enjoyed very good ties with Angola in the recent past. You remember, I think about a month ago, there was the relaunch of the direct KQ flights from Nairobi to Luanda. So that shows we have a good relationship bilaterally. But more fundamentally to discuss is where it leaves the Madagascan candidate who had seemingly enjoyed the support of the SADC. So I think it would be difficult to have the chair and the chairperson, the AU chair and the AUC chairperson also coming from the same region.
What do you mean the same region? Because there was this moment when the Foreign Affairs PS appeared in a televised conversation, and he said that whatever happened with, if you like, SADC or SADC, in terms of calling their 16 member states to vote for Madagascar, he said that did not shake them at all, and saying that apparently, according to him, Madagascar shouldn't be in this race, owing to the fact that this race for the AUC chair should at least, according to him, go to the eastern region, which includes Kenya. So when you say that, are you agreeing with the sentiments of Foreign Affairs PS?
Not really agreeing with him, because at this juncture, through the Kenyan space, I think what we are experiencing in very many discussions around the AUC elections is perhaps what we'd call the theory of motivated reasoning, because you find every argument we advance seems to defend our position, or maybe try to express that we are doing fine. So the statements earlier, I think last night by the PS for Foreign Affairs, maybe his own interpretation of the circular or the memo sent to the SADC heads but for foreign ministers, but that really has an impact in terms of a communication, from a regional body. Right. And equally, you have seen the impact of the countries like South Africa, which are in the SADC. They have had a huge impact in the continental politics, and when it comes to, vying for continental positions. Yesterday, in the preliminary elections, I think South Africa won by 45 votes out of 49. For the position they had fronted their candidate. So that shows you that they have a huge grip on this continental politics, and equally people feel they are safer with them. It's about feeling safe. And that is why I think about Kenya's position and equally our candidate. And then you analyze maybe the heads of states we have. What kind of heads of states do we have on the African continent?
All right.
They are mostly people who steal elections. They are people who force their way into power. It's usually a group that does not want a lot of accountability. But the candidate we are bringing is a candidate who has shown times without number that he loves electoral accountability. So how we fit into that question is tricky.
Why were you shaking your head, Dismas?
Yeah, because you made a point.
I can hear from Daktari.
Yeah, you made a point that I want to proactively disagree with. But first things first, that Kenya enjoys excellent relationship with Angola. And I'd like to blow my own trumpet loudly that I've had the opportunity of organizing an event in Angola, where our ambassador then in Angola, Ambassador Maikara, and Angola's ambassador to Kenya, Abilio, gave us unlimited support. So we did a very good conference. And then number two, the sort of advisory note given by SADC is not binding. One can call it an opinion that they should vote in a particular way. And you recall not long time ago, Zambia, which is a member of SADC, indicated they're going to support Mr. Raila Odinga. So the position given and the statement appeared to be very clumsy, that because of we've got a time constraint, we'll not be able to have a meeting where the foreign affairs ministers can have a physical meeting and come to a position. Even as we speak right now, the same SADC has got two candidates for the Africa Development Bank presidency. So it doesn't mean that they're going to vote as a bloc. And these presidents, the heads of state and government, are rational human beings. They vote with their national interest in mind. So you could be part of a bloc, but if the bloc is taking a decision and South Africa is appearing that it's bullying everybody into a line, these other presidents from member communities of SADC will not necessarily go and kiss Cyril Ramaphosa's ring and saying that because you are the big boy in the region, now we have to tow you, you have to follow what you are telling us to the hills. Because Zambia wants one of their own to become a president, and understand they've already cut a deal with Kenya on how they're going to vote. So what the PS said yesterday, in my view, reflects the accurate position on the ground, that it's merely advisory. Even for East Africa, the heads of state are agreed that they're going to support Mr. Raila Odinga, but there's no guarantee that they'll actually do that, because these are a secret ballot. But one would expect that they'll go with their goodwill, since they've said in public they're supporting Mr. Raila Odinga, and they will do so. And in my view, I think now the Africa Union.
Come to your view.
Yeah, Africa Union.
After I hear from Daktari here,
Yeah, Africa Union now need to change the position so that it's no longer secret ballot.
Oh,
so that now so that we're able to see when countries promise that they're going to vote in this particular manner, we want to see a transparent box.
Okay.
And a vote so that we actually see. You remember during the election of Ken Marende, people wanted to see the actual vote.
Okay.
We are saying we want to create a transparent Africa Union. The elections must be transparent.
Interesting. I want to hear from Daktari here. That's quite an interesting view. Because you know what happened last time? Because this is not the first time that Kenya is running for this particular position. We had Honorable Amina on the ballot last time in that race, and she missed, I think, by 2 votes. And what they're saying is that it's not automatic that when a state shows support, it translates to the vote actually. Remember, this is a secret ballot. But so far, we had the words of Musalia Mudavadi, who is the Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary, and he was speaking to Standard when he said they are confident Raila has traversed 44, all right, to 45 countries, President William Ruto, in his support, even at the 11th hour, talking to his, of course, other heads of state. And I want to hear from Daktari Samuel Kitilewa, having followed what is transpiring, and the hope that the SADC bloc does not just vote blindly because of that letter that went to its members. What do you anticipate? I mean, endorsing you doesn't mean voting for you. And do you also agree that we should go transparent, which means we know who's voted for who?
Thank you. What I would say is that this election is going to mark a historical moment in our continent, and also specifically for our country. That having been said and done, I think SADC, yes, is a big bloc within the African continent, but that's their opinion.
Okay.
You know, they can decide who they want to choose or who they want to elect. But as we are saying, it's not about a country choosing somebody en bloc. The people who are going to vote are heads of state, presidents, and it's going to be a secret ballot. So from where I sit, it depends really on how our candidate, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, how he also personally campaigned amongst the individual presidents of the African continent. And, you know, diplomatically speaking, there could be a general view of how a bloc or a country views a candidate. But as I said earlier, it sometimes goes to the individual who is voting for a candidate. So I want to still remain optimistic that Raila still has a chance. Particularly, I am optimistic that there's going to be a change.
All right.
A change in history, in that all these years we have had the AUC chairperson from the Francophone speaking countries. And, you know, democrats will say that this position should be allowed to rotate. You know, in my language, in the place where I come from, there is a saying that the bottle or the peg for liquor must rotate. When old men are taking liquor, possibly in an evening or when they're relaxing, the peg should not remain with one individual. It must rotate amongst the people who are partaking of the brew. So in that view, if we're going to be true Africans who love one another, I would opine that the Afrocan countries, the French-speaking countries, should look at it from a different angle.
But isn't that why we are with all these particular candidates? They all are coming out to represent just what you're talking about.
Yes.
The equity, the equality, the rotation. Doesn't make Raila Odinga the only possible candidate for that to actually happen, does it?
Yes, but thank you for that. What I'm trying to say is he has come out prominently as one individual, you know, one charismatic politician who can vouch for the interests of the African continent, who can fight for the African people, who can ensure that there's infrastructural, development, who can ensure that there's food security, who can also ensure that conflicts within our African continent can be amicably resolved.
All right.
Yeah, that's the way I look at him.
Yeah, allow me to quickly buttress his point. There's an agreement that the next chair of AUC must come from East Africa. That is where all the people who are running for this position are from this part of the world. It's only that maybe the heads of state were not able to get into a consensus and represent one candidate. Yeah. And then number two, the delivery of the chairman of AUC does not in fact depend on who is the chairman. That it's Mr. Raila Odinga. Because still the people who've got the yam and the knife in Africa Union are the heads of state. Raila Odinga can come with top-of-the-range PowerPoint proposals on food security, on infrastructure, on everything else. But it's that body chaired by President Lorenzo, the heads of states and government, who have the arm and the knife. They're the ones who have the last word. And that is part of the reason why people have been saying maybe the African Union should be reformed in the model of the European Union. Because, for instance, it's a tragedy that today African Union does not have its own source of income. They have to rely on China. I mean, like, for instance, we are told the headquarters was put up by China. And then you are saying African solutions for African problems, yet you can't even have your own building. You don't have a source of income.
How many years later?
I mean, on average, one would say even 60 years later. So, you know, like in the European Union enjoys some sort of taxation that trade within the regional and even external trade, they get a percentage of the tax. But for Mr. Raila Odinga, I suspect his first stop will be talk to Donald Trump on USAID, or talk to Germany, or, yeah, I mean, these are the people who fund this. Majority of African countries are not up to date with their annual subscriptions.
That is very, very interesting. I want to come back to you on that, because you've also had the now incoming chair of the AU, you know, President of Angola, speak to a number of these things, including that aspect of finances and inclusion. But I want to hear from Alenga, because of the governance, you know, area. Our candidate, all right, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, has unsuccessfully tried to be Kenya's president 5 times. 5 times. Today has the chance now to change his fortunes, but his destiny, as I am speaking, lies in the hands of about 35 heads of state. Would it be a turnaround for him? Look at the backdrop, because every time we're looking at these candidates, we are looking closely also at their backgrounds. If it's changed at the continental level, what perspective do you think would be if they were to look at the number of times he's vied just locally to be president, and perhaps if you go as, you know, as per democracy, Kenyans seemingly didn't have enough confidence in him as a head of state. Would that play any particular role in changing perspectives today?
Anki, that's a very fantastic question, and inside me then it invokes a few things that I need to speak to. One is that these African leaders that are going to vote this evening are consumers of continental news, they are consumers of continental intelligence, and they are well aware about the domestic issues of Kenya. And those domestic issues of Kenya, to some extent, are part of what has formed our candidature for that seat. Therefore, I do not think that many African countries would want to look like they are being used to clear Kenya's domestic mess in terms of, balancing our political issues back home. The very many sentiments that you have seen on social media from Kenyans, particularly young Kenyans, who have even taken the time and the burden to write even to heads of states emails telling them that is not our candidate. Those are things that get to these people, because we are surviving in an extremely interconnected world where information is the key to everything. Today, in a click of a second, you will know what is happening in the US without stepping foot there. So all this information that is exchanging through the webs and all the other, and even the mainstream media, informs then how those countries view our candidates. Another point that I think is hidden from our eyes pretty much is when you're going into any contest, I think it is rather not clever enough when you define yourself as the candidate to watch. Then therefore everybody knows that this is the common enemy, and everybody organizes in terms of how to confront you. So our candidate, we pushed him forward with our local razzmatazz that tends to antagonize other people, and you know. Would
you not look at it as a country just supporting their candidate without really provoking any other rival? Are you saying you would have done otherwise, go silent on it? Because President William Ruto has been very vocal and Anywhere he goes, any summit, it's always about vote for the candidate from Kenya.
That is a very important footnote you have put to my thesis. But
okay,
we need to understand that this is continental matters, and these continental matters must not be approached from a domestic angle. Like we are pushing our candidate because back home we know very well. We know very well the architectures of the candidature of Raila Odinga know very well that they do not want this person in the domestic political mathematics for 2027 and beyond. And then other nations are aware about these things because we are a very loud country. Like everybody knows what happens in Kenya. You know, there are some countries that have elections and they end and they swear in their president, but you don't even know that an election happened. Like nobody knows that an election happened in Namibia in November last year.
We know. What do you mean nobody?
I mean,
we know.
Actually, but ours would be everywhere.
You know, Anki, my
the
colleague
international
is making
media
a
would be highlighting what is happening. People are burning tires. So we are a loud country. Therefore, everyone focuses on every little thing that happens inside Kenya.
He has assaulted logic, and we can't allow that to go unchecked. First of all, the gentleman who is running for AUC chair, Mr. Raila Odinga, is not a toddler. He's above 18. He's got urgency.
82.
Yeah, he's 80. Of course, I'm just stressing a statement. He's above 18. Okay. So he's got capacity to take decisions. He's got urgency. He's... that we are pushing him to the Africa Union as if Raila has gone to the Union on a blindfold. He doesn't know what he's doing. Nobody forced Mr. Raila Odinga to declare his interest in running for this position. He declared his interest, and President Ruto said that I'm going to support you, assigned Musalia Mudavadi the responsibility of ensuring that the campaign is a success. And every single African head of state has got a very superior understanding of what is happening in Kenya. Kenya is an anchor state. I would even venture, although I may sound that I'm not very sensitive, but you know we're a superpower in Africa. So it would be responsible for anybody in the world not to know what is happening in Kenya. The way it would be responsible for any leader not to know what Trump is doing in the US today, because we live in this globalization of markets and production, where everything is interconnected. So for Mr. Raila Odinga running for that office, it's a very good thing. Nobody is forcing him. His voters, the heads of state and government, understand Kenyan politics like the back of their hand. So they're not under duress to vote in a particular way.
All right.
And it's not as if they're coming to solve Kenya's domestic problem. If they don't want Raila Odinga, they will not vote for him. But as he demonstrated, he has capacity and competence. And many presidents have gone to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro or Mount Kenya and declared their support for Mr. Raila Odinga. And what my colleague is saying here is what has been going on social media. People decampaigning Raila Odinga, some of them even believe that it's all Africans who are going to vote. They don't know that it's only heads of state and government who are going to vote.
And that we have some countries that have been suspended from that voting process.
Yeah, and you know that is the kind of stuff. A friend of mine said that well, assuming that you are not in the Asian part of the world, that if you don't eat a rat, why are you unhappy when a cat wants to eat a rat? I mean, most of us are not qualified to become chair of AUC.
Okay.
Raila has declared his interest in becoming a chair. Why do you become nervous? Why do you start sweating? Why do you start getting blood pressure? And you're not qualified for that position. Mr. Raila Odinga is eminently qualified. You've even seen a number of scholars, highly regarded scholars, who speak very good English, they're very fluent, but they go again to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro and they start campaigning Mr. Raila Odinga. What happened to respect for people's interests? I mean, if Dr. Riyad is a position at the UN and he wants to go for it, I'm waiting for the first time, but I'll go and sell my goats and campaign for him. We must support all Kenyans to the hilt.
Dismas is being a little bit disingenuous with his perspective, because at one point he tells us that this is a personal decision, and then another time he tells us this is a country on the table.
It took a personal decision which received country support. You can't run for this position without the blessings of the state. So he said, I want to run for this position, and he got support.
It is not, it's not for us to gag Kenyans who have alternative voices on the same, because Kenyans that are saying that this was not really the right candidate for us, there are certain parameters they are looking at, and those parameters are generating majorly from our internal domestic politics. Let me ask you, Anki, the people that you have seen in Addis singing Tawala, whatever songs there, they are the same people. A few months ago or a few years ago, they felt that this candidate was not qualified to lead anything here. They said a lot of dirty things about the candidate, but today they are the ones who are fronting that candidate. So when normal Kenyans look at it and like, okay, these are the people that are leading this candidate, they're taking him to Addis, but they were telling us this just a few years ago when they were going to the election of 2022. Then that is where, as right-thinking members of the Kenyan society, we find this candidature is shrouded in some mystery that is supposed to help someone back home.
What did you call that group of people? Right thinking?
Kenyans.
Okay, now there's a group of the right thinking Kenyans. I don't know if this must is that. This must allow me to come back to you. I want to hear from Daktari, because what Alenga is referring to is actually a video that surfaced where Raila Odinga had lunch with Kenyan politicians within his broad-based alliance. But isn't that what we always told, Daktari, that politics is very dynamic and changes? People pledge allegiances, they change, they shift. Is it right to use what Alenga is saying as a basis to argue that there's been such a shift that we will see dishonesty this far from politicians who went to Addis to cheer up Raila Odinga in this race?
Yes, thank you, Anki, for that question.
Yes.
I tend to disagree with my colleague here in that, you know, politics is dynamic. It's not static. And what I want to say is to applaud Kenyans and also specifically His Excellency, our President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto.
All right.
And the other politicians who have gone to rally behind the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. I want to put it this way. In politics, you may try to vie for position today and miss it. Let me refer you to Abraham Lincoln.
Lincoln?
Yes. Okay. That's just one example, but a very recent example. Let me refer you also to the immediate former president of the U.S. He tried to become president of the U.S. quite a number of years. As you may be aware, he even tried to contest the Democratic nomination with President Obama. And when he lost to Obama in the nominations, he came out and backed President Obama, who won, and President Joe Biden became Obama's vice president. And looking at the Kenyan scenario within the African continent, we are not losing cognizance of the fact that Raila Amolo Odinga and our current president, Dr. Samoei William Ruto, have been in the same camp, politically speaking, for so many years. They have been in the same ODM. And if I may refer you to the 2007-2000 election disputed presidential election results, our current president was very vocal in, supporting Raila Amolo Odinga.
All right.
And so history will repeat itself. Now that Ruto is president of Kenya, I think he has a right to support one of his own, rightly speaking, to support his mentor.
I'm sorry to interject, but I want to hear from Dismas and Alenga shortly.
Please.
According to Alenga, however, he's saying we're very loud. We do know that the the candidates fronted for Madagascar and Djibouti equally have the support of their government. What he's saying is Kenya might have gone, is it, Alenga, a little too loud on how they did it. So you're not in agreement with that as well. He's not disputing the support, but the nature in which Raila Odinga has been shown.
Yes, from where I sit,
yes.
Every country has got its own, or every people have got their own way of celebrating their own.
All right.
So I don't think that should be taken as a drawback on Raila's candidature. It just shows that Kenyans are enthusiastic about his candidature, and they wish him well. And if he wins, you will be surprised, even those ones who are speaking against him in one way or another, they will rally behind him to say, yes, we were there with you.
All right.
So I think it depends on the culture of our people. Thank you.
All right, at 2 p.m., if you're watching from back at home, diaspora, wherever it is you're watching from, we're anticipating that from 2 p.m. things will pick up quite swiftly and faster as we're anticipating the elections. And so far, earlier in the morning today, Ruto attended the high-level humanitarian conference for the people of Sudan, which was held on the sidelines of the 38th ordinary session of the AU Assembly. We have the whole program with us, and I'll keep giving you bits of what is happening in Addis Ababa. But gentlemen, even as we put together our closing remarks for this session, the AUC position for Raila Odinga would be it, really. It's a term of 4 years, renewable once. And there are conversations of if he wins, he could have an option of not doing the second term and coming back to the Kenyan politics, or whichever way it goes. But that is the highest he would go for now. And he'll be about 84 years plus after. I don't know, what do you see as a trajectory for his political career past this?
Well, in my view, if Mr. Raila Odinga wins, then he should do 4 years and position himself like some sort of a transitional leader. Then he comes up with the reforms. He ensures he secured the support of the entire Africa Union leadership, the heads of state and government, and then he takes a break. Now, that if he wins and then he plans to resign to come and run for president, I think that will be a huge stain on our brand, Kenya as a brand. It will expose us to brand liabilities, and our regional leaders will no longer trust a Kenyan candidate. Because they voted for you, then you do 2 years or 1 year, then because you've got a appetite of becoming a president of Kenya, you come back to Nairobi. That is unacceptable. If he wins, let him stay in Addis, speak with these other presidents so that it transforms Africa Union. And then now Kenyans will have a clean slate for people that he has suffocated within his political party and the people who want to run for office. You know the names which have been mentioned. There's the name of William Ruto said he wants to defend his position. He wants to become president again for another 5 years. There is Dr. Fred Matiang'i. There are many other people who want to run. They should be given that opportunity. And then finally, the fact that you did not support Raila Odinga for president of Kenya does not therefore mean that you cannot support his candidature for the Africa Union. Those two, it's not necessarily the case. However, in as much as Professor has indicated that we've got our style of doing things, but it's almost primitive and bad manners to get a few Kenyans, understand they're members of a county assembly, to go to Addis and start saying, Tawala Africa, Baba Tawala Africa. In my view, in as much as we like doing our things with style and elegance, they should not take these campaign tactics we use in the villages back here in Mosocho or Mandera and then take them to Ethiopia. In my mind, that is unacceptable. And if they're members of any political party, then they must be disciplined. Can you imagine? Other presidents are in Addis, they are discussing big-time business, the issue in DRC, the issue in South Sudan, and then you've got a few Kenyans here, MCAs at Tawala, Kenya, Africa. I mean, what are they talking about? In my view, that is unacceptable.
Alenga.
I think I want to point out a few things. You know, Anki, where I come from, they say when you're at the neighbors, even if the music is very nice, you dance while sitting. So we'd have expected the same to happen with the contingent that went to Addis. Just observe that we are at a very serious meeting let us give time and let us monitor what it has. First of all, it was not even important that they go, but now then going there and taking over and looking like, and those are honorable members of parliament from Kenya.
It was over lunch.
Actually, you remember there were two groups. There was one group which was doing lunch, which was very decent.
Yeah, and there's one that was actually dancing at the AU pavilion. You know. It's really bad manners, just to say the least. What I want to say is that we had a candidate, but this candidate is problematic. Problematic in the sense that, first of all, if you're fronting a candidate and they are 20 years older than all the other two candidates on average, then definitely you are a little bit punctured in terms of the expertise and the novelty of the wisdom that you're bringing to the AUC in this globalized world and a fast-moving world. So we look at that as a puncture in our own candidate. And then two, the domestic issues will have a huge impact on our candidate. Three, I think the issue of the structure of the African continent in terms of the colonial heritage will also have a huge impact, and that is undeniably, because if you look at history, I am a numbers person, and there's no way that things will happen 3 times and it doesn't tell you a story about the recurrence of the same. The last, out of the 5 AUC chairs, 4 of them have come from the Francophone countries. It means there's a way they organize around the vote, and it's not haranguing in Addis, but organizing to get out the last vote. And that is what will be. You know, they say in the boxing ring, the blow that takes you down is not the heaviest one, it's the one you didn't see.
Anki, talking about age, how old is the US president? No,
well?
That is you know, he's spoken about Raila's age as if that is incapacity.
No, it's just in context.
He has compared
just
it
in context.
to his...
in context, the Djibouti guy is 60, the Madagascan guy is 65.
Yeah, but how old is Donald Trump?
Okay, I need to close this. Dr. Kitelewa, time is not allowing me, sir. But we do know for sure we can have you again, if only in 30 seconds. Yeah. But of course, the director is saying we have to leave at this time. But thank you so much.
Yes.
In only 30 seconds, if you can manage that.
Yes, what I would say as a parting shot is that for the Kenyans who went and became about a bit rowdy in Addis, that was an oversight. But speaking about the candidature of Raila Odinga, I would say that we should be open-minded.
All right.
And hope for the best. That if he wins, good for us all. If he doesn't, what I would advise is that he should relinquish his active political activities so that he can now mentor other young Kenyans to take up his mantle.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Samuel Kitelewa, International Conflict Resolution Specialist. Dismas Mukua, right at the center, is a political analyst, and my extreme left is Alenga Torrestad, who is a policy and governance analyst. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. So far, 3 candidates face off today. We are looking at some intense moment at 2 p.m. The Addis Ababa moment of truth has taken a short break for an hour or so, a lunch break, and at exactly 3 p.m. we'll be back here and expecting the votes to begin. Remember, the rounds are particular in that order, depending on the candidacy and the winning, and we'll give you that breakdown even as we come back. My name is Anki Dorisumbat. The sports show will be coming up shortly, but don't go too far away. We're still with you on matters AUC chairmanship race. Don't go too far away.